Welcome, everyone, to episode number 4 of the Always On podcast here. I'm your host, Chase Choate, with my boy, as always, Reed Carter. Reed, how you doing?
Good. Another Tuesday night. Putting one in
I
the
know
books.
listen, we got a dude over there who's suffering, but he's charging on through. So, he and I can listen to this podcast come Wednesday morning.
We like to
But
hear
that being
ourselves
said, I
talk.
think you were suffering for a good reason, though, because obviously we got some NFL WIldcard to recap. Unfortunately, both our teams didn't do too hot, but we can get into that as the time comes. I'm assuming we want to start just right off the rip with Seahawks and 49ers.
Yeah, let's roll right through them.
Well, I guess quick overview of it. It was a 41-23 Niners win. That was I guess I went 2 for 2 on my locks. No, excuse me. I didn't. I'm looking at it wrong. I got the prediction correct, at least who the winner was going to be, but it definitely wasn't my lock. But that being said, what are your thoughts on it? Honestly, for the most part, it was a pretty solid game. It was tied at the half, if I'm not mistaken, or did I put a note there wrong? I think I did. It was 17-16 at the half. Seahawks were up. Kind of a shocker.
Yeah, and the weather that I was harping on all week leading into it did not happen. There was no weather. It rained lightly, but it was not what I thought it was going to be.
It was kind of a perfect little afternoon. That was my first thought when the game turned on, that no, our weatherman, I guess that's how weather is. It's about a 50-50 shot anyway. But I was like, weatherman Carter didn't get that one.
Blew it. But yeah, McCaffrey looked good. 108 on the ground, touchdown, 6 catches, 30 yards. That's a pretty big day. Brock Purdy surprising everybody, just keeping it rolling.
I know. Brock Purdy, I think that was his 7th start, if I'm not mistaken. He's doing pretty dang good. I don't know if he's the guy of the future there or what, but for being Mr. Irrelevant, he's making himself pretty pronounced in the league right now. It's kind of impressive. I wouldn't have expected it. When we come to another 7th round pick here in the Buffalo-Miami game, he wasn't making himself very well known.
Yeah, that's for sure. But Brock Purdy seems to be keeping the Niners hot. They look to roll into the divisional round, riding some high waves from the Brock Purdy train.
That is very true. And they got, honestly, a tough test ahead of them, kind of. Well, tougher than what I thought, because they're going to be playing the Cowboys. The Cowboys looked good last night. We'll get there when we get to it. But that's going to be a fun little divisional round match-off there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Niners at home against the Cowboys should be a good one.
But I guess I wanted to recap real quick, too, what our predictions were. I had the 49ers winning 24-14. Not really close. And then you had the Seahawks winning. This was your lock of the day. We both went 1 for 1 or 1 for 2 on our locks. Not a hot start, but I guess 50 is better than nothing. You had them 17-14, Seahawks winning. For a moment there, it looked like you were honestly onto something at halftime, but then that 49er defense clamped down and showed why they were a top 3, top 4 defense in the league.
Yeah, well, I'd also thought the weather was going to be a factor, and that did not happen. So that's why the pick was such a low-scoring game.
Yeah, and realistically, though, listen, when McCaffrey is going for almost 100 on the receptions and then running for over 100 yards, you got the guy just, wheeling and dealing, basically 30 touches when you average both out on the day. They're a hard team to stop. It helps Purdy. It makes him look a heck of a lot better when you got your best guy balling at the right times.
Yeah, it definitely makes your life easier as a quarterback when you can just hand the ball off to the guy in the backfield and he can make things happen for you. That makes life easy as a quarterback.
And you know who I didn't realize? This is kind of stupid to say because I knew he was fast, but Deebo Samuel is such a burner, man. It is unbelievable. He had one catch, I think it was the either late second, early third, where he caught it and just turned on the jets, dude, and went, I believe, 60-some-odd yards. I'm trying to get the play-by-play up as we're speaking. But that guy is a monster. Oh, it was actually in the 4th quarter where he went 74 yards. Dude is ridiculous.
Yeah, the only guy that might have been able to catch him is this dude on the chair that he's driving around the parking lot before the game.
That's what I was just about to bring up, because this guy – is this the future of tailgating right here? Because this guy is a One, I want to know how long it took this guy to do it. For everyone who's potentially watching this thing, we got a guy, he's got like an LCD screen on his chair. He is going full ham on this thing. It's a sight to behold. It's a beautiful thing.
About ran those people over right there. The guy has no regard for anybody just whipping it around the tailgate.
That might be his next move, is to put some headlights on there so you can actually see what's coming. But dude, that thing, I would 100% be in this chair if I could be. Like, that is the lazy man's way to tailgate if I've ever seen it. And whoever
what if the weather had any effect on that thing? If ruined his couch.
Maybe he got some drifting action going, though. It might have actually helped him out a little bit on some turns, giving him a little drift around some turns.
Yeah, I got to think he's not going full speed right now. He's just taking it easy, putzing around. He opened that bad boy up. I mean, woo.
I want to know how fast that thing goes. When you put that pedal to the metal, or I guess your little joystick to the leather, how fast did that bitch go?
Would be great as if it was really just a guy in a wheelchair, and that's just like a thing that slides over his wheelchair that he just puts on for Niners games. Like, it's not even a full elaborate
style couch. Almost.
He just slides. It's like a big box. He just slides over his wheelchair.
I just hope that somewhere in that contraption, he's either got like a kegerator or some sort of cooler that he can house his beers for the afternoon, just so he can take it with him. I think he might. Is that what's on his backrest there?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Trying to figure that out. That it looks like a tailgate. It looks like a cooler.
It does, doesn't it? He might be doing it.
It's hard to tell if that's part of the backrest or if that's a cooler. Either way, man, he's got
that thing right there.
There's plenty of room for a cooler.
Totally badass. I just got to say, it is fucking sweet, that deal. But other than that, I mean, honestly, that had me more intrigued than the actual game itself, to be quite honest, because in the second half, it turned into a little bit of a snoozer. So,
yeah, and that led right into the first half of the Chargers-Jaguars game that night. That was a boring first half.
What ended up being a little thriller in Manila, like Muhammad Ali style, dude. Muhammad Ali and George Frazier. It became a battle of fucking heavyweights there at the end. It was an unbelievable game. Chargers, Jags, 8-15. Jags soar on back with a 31-30 win in the closing seconds of the fourth quarter. That game was awesome. At least the ending of the game was. Like you said, first quarter, it looked like it might be a blowout. We might have back-to-back beatdowns in the opening round of the wild card.
Yeah, 27-7 at the half.
Yeah, just an utter – I mean, and that just goes to show it ended up being 31-30, 3 points the rest of the game with that offense. That offense with the Chargers seemed like it was humming. But it just goes to show what halftime adjustments can do for you.
Yeah, well, it also doesn't help when Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions in the first half. That
true.
Giving you a short field for the Chargers. I mean, were they really humming, or were they just playing on a short field, making it easy for them?
That's true. That's the point that can be made. And to be realistic, if you were just to show anyone the box score and you were to say, 5 turnovers from the Jaguars throughout the game, you would say, no doubt the Chargers are winning that one. But no, sir. Now, what was it? Yeah, the LA Chargers had no turnovers. So a 5-0 ratio, dude, like +5 on that, you would never think that would be a loss for the Chargers. It's kind of crazy. And then it just goes to show team stats, total yards, 390 to 320 in favor of the Jags. First downs, 24 to 18. Like, just total domination in that second half. And I don't know if we had said this already, but they did pull the tarps. So they made a statement there when they had a full crowd. So our Saudi investor, what is it, Shahad Khan or whatever that guy's name is, the owner for the Jags, he got real rowdy and let all of Duval out to dominate that night.
Let all of Duval out. The Chargers at one point in the game had a 95% chance of winning the game according to win probability.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. I mean, the over-under, well, I guess,
with 11 minutes cover. To go. 11
yeah.
minutes to go, they had 94.3% chance of winning the game, and that quickly changed with 6 minutes to go.
But realistically, I mean, besides being a couple points off, your prediction was somewhat spot on. You were 37-35. Jags winning by 2. Ended up 31-30. Not a bad prediction there, realistically. I mean, the lock.
I believe I said late field goal, too, to win it.
Yeah. And it literally hit the over. Cover, obviously, there was no cover on that one, or at least the Chargers didn't cover. And it was just an unbelievable game. I mean, I was semi-tuned out that third quarter just because it looked like this game was way in hand. And then once the fourth quarter came along, I believe the Jags scored 18 points in the fourth. Like
it was 11.
Oh, sorry. 11 points in the fourth. That's still, though, that's pretty dang good. I guess points it must have been in the second half. Am I reading that right? I'm trying to get to it. Of course, I'm an idiot.
Well, yeah, they scored 13 in the third and 11 in the fourth.
Gotcha.
Meanwhile, the Chargers only scored 3 points in the third quarter alone. And that was it for the second half scoring.
Yeah, and then shut out in the fourth. I didn't realize that the Jaguars defense, I knew they weren't horrible, but I didn't realize they were that solid when push came to shove. Once they get those adjustments in the back of the pocket there, they must have had some sort of cheat sheet. Maybe they were stealing calls, tapping into the play calling wire.
Yeah, some old Bill Belichick stuff.
Yeah, crazy. A little not Deflategate, Spygate stuff. Maybe they were just reading lips, going full on Enigma machine in the locker room. But that leads into the next big thriller. I guess realistically, I mean, the two best games of the wild card weekend, in my opinion, were the Jags, Chargers, and then this following game, Sunday at 1:00, the Dolphins versus the Bills. Me as a Dolphins guy, I had no expectations for this game. I mean, literally, I picked a 38-6 blowout by the Bills. Got correct on the pick, but it sure as hell wasn't a blowout. It was 34-31, Bills over the Dolphins, and they needed all the help they could get to pull that victory out of the jaws of defeat.
Yeah, that game was a lot closer than I think anyone thought, to be honest with you. I had third-string quarterback. No one gave him a chance.
No.
Dolphins played a hell of a game. Both of those were a lock for both of us, so we did nail that. We did not come close in the score prediction.
And we tried our best to not get it right. I'll tell you what, we tried our best to lose that lock of the weekend. That was our lock of the weekend, more or less just the day.
Well, I did correctly predict the Bills' score of 34, so for what that's worth.
You got that right. You were just off with Miami by, 29, so. Or what? No, 19, sorry.
Well, most people probably were, so that's all right. I'm not alone in that pick.
Listen, I didn't even think Miami was going to score a touchdown. That's how little faith I had after them coming off a struggle with the Jets. So I think everyone was a little bit surprised at that, but it just comes to show, man, Josh Allen is an utter freak. They had 3 turnovers by him alone. I believe they had a total of 4 on the game. And so
he threw an interception in the red zone, didn't he?
Threw an interception in the red zone. He also, at the beginning of the third quarter, had a fumble when they got the ball because Miami received it.
Right.
Got the ball, essentially a strip sack, but wasn't really a sack. And then homeboy picks it up. Yeah. Dolphins defensive lineman picks it up. Zach Seiler picks it up for a 5-yard fumble return. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that game was crazy.
The game was crazy.
There were a lot of drop passes. It was a very weird game. That ball was bouncing all over the place.
Yeah, and then Miami had some drop passes that really cost them, especially some early, because there was a post, essentially, that was if Skylar Thompson could have gotten it a little bit more on the lead for Waddle, could have potentially, if it wasn't a touchdown, it was going down into the red zone. But underthrew it a little bit. Waddle had to try and high point it, dropped it. There were some things that clearly went Miami's way, especially on the turnover side of the game, even though they had 2 themselves. So it's not like it was, the 5-0 ratio that the Chargers were dealing with. But, dude, I was highly impressed, especially as a Dolphins fan. I'm pretty excited for what they did, especially having their third stringer in the game. And I think, sky's the limit, depending on what the heck happens with Tua for next year. But the Bills are off. Who are they playing? I think they're going to play, the Bengals. So they're off to another potential struggle. Maybe they were looking ahead. I don't know. But that's going to be probably the game of next week. in the divisional.
That's possible. I mean, they very well could have been overlooking the Dolphins with the amount of injuries they had with their third string quarterback. They probably thought it was going to be a cakewalk for them, and the Dolphins came in ready to play.
I'm pretty sure everyone thought it was going to be a cakewalk for them. I don't know, except for people maybe in Miami's locker room. I don't know if anyone was thinking they had a shot in that game.
That's true.
And I guess just real quick, we already went over the predictions. On this one, the over did hit, which I thought was going to kind of be a struggle. That 43.5 over, at least the last time we saw it. And then the spread was, I think at game time, when we were doing the podcast, it was, I think, at 13. At game time, I'm pretty sure it was all the way up to 14.5. Clearly, the Bills did not cover that. But that just shows what Vegas and just the world generally was betting on. I mean, that was how impressive it was that Miami even was in the game.
Absolutely.
But realistically, that was then followed up by another good one with the Giants and Vikings. Pretty much a nail-biter the entire game. It didn't have as much back and forth as far as the huge discrepancies that the Jags and Chargers had, where one half was dominated by the Chargers, the other half was dominated by the Jags. Bills and Dolphins were a little bit this way, but it was a 31-24 win for the Giants. Horrible pass interference call, or excuse me, roughing the passer call that could have potentially led to that game being tied if Kirk Cousins wasn't a moron. But other than that, it was a pretty solid game. I don't have much as far as the recap for it, because I'm not going to lie, I was doing a little bit of laundry while that game was going on. I was getting myself prepared for what I was thinking would be the game of the day, Ravens-Bengals. Turned out to be semi-solid, a little bit of a snoozer. But, do you have any thoughts on that Vikings-Giants game? I mean, you predicted the Giants to win that, so it got you ahead of me on the overall prediction for the weekend.
Yeah, I thought they did exactly what I thought they were going to do. The way that Saquon kind of came in, took over the game. Daniel Jones played competent football. He didn't, try to do too much. And the Giants,
he had a pretty damn good game, 300 yards plus passing.
Yeah, he did, and unfortunately for Kirk Cousins, I mean, he had him in a position to win, but he, decided to throw a short pass on 4th and 8. I don't understand that. Why that happens so frequently, and just in football in general, and going for it on 4th down, especially in game-winning situations or game-tying situations, they throw it short of the sticks. It makes no sense to me. You got to at least get to the sticks.
And what gets me about that one, because if you look at the replay, there was some pressure coming on him on that 4th and 8, but it looks like he could have escaped the pocket to his throwing hand, kept on rolling out right, and maybe gotten he's not a slow guy. He's not some burner. He's not Daniel Jones, or he's pretty respectably quick. But you think he could have escaped that pocket because there was a little bit of an opening for him and just make a little bit more, because he just went instantly to what looked like his hot out route. And it was just, dude, nothing to be said. It was kind of a pretty pitiful ending to that game, where it's that's the best you could do. That's the play you're drawing up to where this guy's going to get a little 3-yard dump pass and they get tackled right on arrival. It was kind of anticlimactic in that regard.
Yeah, and we see that far too often in pro football, especially when you got the athletes you have on the field, the fact you can't get to the sticks and even have your quarterback make a play with his legs potentially. I mean, you're playing in the playoffs. This isn't a week 4 game that you're not trying to get anybody hurt. We got to sacrifice a little bit to try and pick up the first down here.
Yeah, and it's not like he had all that much time to work, but when you're talking about a 4th and 8 to get yourself advanced into the divisional round, you'd think you try and do all you can to either extend that play, maybe take it out yourself instead of just doing that little dump off. But what can I say? I wasn't there. He has a lot more talent than me, but otherwise, though, that game was pretty solid. It was close the entire game, but the thing that really killed me on that final drive was that roughing the passer, where I know you instantly reached out to me saying, dude, what was that? Because Cousins hadn't even released the ball yet, and he was getting wrapped up. And it's just that. Yeah, go ahead.
What are we supposed to do as a defensive player? How you're not even allowed to tackle him while he's got the football now? What are we doing?
I know. It's crazy. And what kills me is it looked like honestly, I think it was a little bit of poetic justice when it comes to it seemed to me that once that roughing the passer was going to be called, and of course I wanted that to kind of happen because I needed the Vikings to win for my picks. But it just seemed to me that, that would be the messed up play that would get them to go down and tie up the game late and then force it to overtime. Where, and a little bit of poetic justice, though, came down to that 4th and 8 later in the drive, and Cousins bailed out the Giants, essentially.
Yeah, the Giants were doing everything they could to lose that game on the final drive.
And speaking of a team doing everything they can to lose a game, let's get to the Bengals and Ravens that ended up with a, 24-17 win for the Bengals. Late 4th quarter, Tyler Huntley and a QB sneak trying to take the lead. Fumbles on the inch line and just literally did everything he could to give away that game to the Bengals.
Yeah, the defensive end takes it 98 yards. That's a big boy trucking down the field.
Oh, dude, honestly, I was impressed with just the way, I mean, he was booking it a little bit there. I mean, I know defensive ends aren't slow these days, but homeboy really just turned on the jets, left everybody behind.
Man, and that just being the ceiling play of the game, right? Literally to win the game.
Yeah,
11 minutes to go.
Yep.
But calling a quarterback sneak from that far out was a little questionable to me. I don't know if we're close enough to quarterback sneak from there, especially going over the top like that.
Yeah, I don't quite get that either. And realistically, it wasn't all that impressive of a game. I mean, Burrow only had 209 yards. Huntley outpassed him in that same game. Mixon and Dobbins, the both respective starting backs, had less than 50 yards. Oh, excuse me. J.K. Dobbins had 62, but both were under 100 yards. Wider. I mean, it wasn't really some offensive barn burner game. Seattle. The Ravens actually did get over 100 more yards in total yards, 364 to 234. Turnovers weren't that great, and realistically, they also beat them in the possession battle. The Ravens did too, as far as 32 minutes to whatever that would be for Cincinnati. I mean, on the stat line, the Ravens did all they had to do to win it from that side of the paper, but you can't give the ball up on the inch line and then give up, a 98-yard return? Like, that's crazy.
Well, there's a questionable block in the back on that return as well that it's kind of shocking they didn't call it.
See, I saw that.
Throw your hands up immediately, then they won't call it. But
I did see that going around the Twitter sphere this afternoon, and honestly, the more you watch it, and especially because I kind of went, on like a 5-minute deep dive, replaying it over and over again, it is pretty questionable. But at the same token, it does seem like he just sneaks in there. Like when you're watching it live action, I could totally see why it would be called. But it does look, I believe it was 54, one of their linebackers, I think it was his number, who just sneaks the shoulder in just enough to where it might be able, in his head, just enough to where you could, leave it alone. I'm glad they didn't call it, to be honest.
I'm watching it here now. So it's 89. It's Andrews, their tight end, trying to make a tackle, and 51. He does get his shoulder around it. It looks like he gets his shoulder around, but it's very close. Very close.
It's teetering. It's like Walinda on his tightrope. He's literally just tiptoeing right across that plane that would be blocking the back or not. So it was right on the line. I'll grant you that, no doubt. But when it comes to
hold on, I'm looking at it from a different angle. It kind of looks like Andrews just loses his footing trying to make a play. I mean, looking at it from the front view here, it's hard to see. He definitely doesn't get in front of him. 51 definitely doesn't get in front of him for a clean block. So he either loses his footing or he's pushed in the back. It's hard to tell from that front angle, but it is a very close play.
Yeah, and with that said, that we both had the Bengals winning. I had a 42-30. We both really had respectively close games, not as low scoring in our thought process. I think when we were making those scoring predictions, Lamar Jackson was going to be in the game before really, you broke that news on air on Tuesday or Thursday afternoon.
Yeah,
so
that was when he posted his tweet about his PCL.
Yeah, and realistically, the over just barely hit on that game. At least when we were talking about it, it was 40.5. I don't know what it ended up being, but it was 40.5, and I believe it ended up being a 42-point game, something of that nature. So that just barely hit. And then the Bengals, they didn't end up covering. So I guess we went 50-50 there. What you did on the money line is what you did on the money line. But realistically, though, I think the most disappointing game, at least just because I have some care, is that Cowboys-Bucks game. And I'll let you take it because it was brutal, to be honest.
Yeah, well, makes you wonder if they're going to fire Leftwich. I don't know if that news is broke or not. I know he's on the hot seat officially now. But Cowboys come in and basically just dominate game from start to finish, man. Dak Prescott looked good. They were able to throw the ball all over the place. The Bucs secondary being healthy and back didn't make a lick of difference, man. The Cowboys pretty much did with them at will what they wanted to. Looking at the box score, I mean, Dak Prescott has a pretty big day, 25 for 33, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. Tom Brady had an equally big day, but this is what blows my mind, 66 pass attempts for the old timer.
Crazy. I know that arm's going to be hurting this afternoon, I'll tell you what.
And Tom Brady throwing his first red zone interception as a Buck. That was noteworthy, to say the least.
Also losing his first game to the Dallas Cowboys as well. He's now 7-1.
Yeah, that was it was quite a disappointing game for me. I'm a big Bucks fan, but if you watch the Bucks all year, that was nothing new. Watching that game was the same thing we saw from week 1 to week 18, man. They were very inconsistent. They showed signs of life at times. They basically forgot they had a game until the second half. Their offense looked terrible. They got down to the red zone through the pick, and that was pretty much it.
And that 31-14 score is a little generous for what that game actually was. That game was essentially start to finish a Cowboys just domination. They'd corralled the Bucs from the first all the way through the fourth. They were being a true Cowboy.
Yeah, realistically, the game should have been 24-0 going into the fourth quarter. The Bucs scored with no time left in the third quarter. So that was when they scored their first points of the game. It was a 30-yard pass to Julio Jones.
Well, and the Cowboys kicker was trying to do everything he could to give the Bucs free points. I mean, he missed 4 field goals in a row. So bad that on that Manning cast that ESPN does, Peyton Manning was asking if you could cut a kicker in mid-half on a playoff game. And honestly, I don't think that would be too far afield. He was trash. I mean, like, I could have gone out and shanked 4 kicks real quick for you.
Yeah, that was interesting, man. Seeing the guy get the yips on live TV just right in front of your face. It's like watching a putter that just, Tiger Woods makes every putt, and then on the fourth hole, he just all of a sudden can't make shit. It's just like, what are we watching? This guy it's an extra point, too. It's not even like he's kicking a big-time pressing field goal from 45-plus yards. He's chip-shotting. It's a chip shot.
And luckily, they didn't need him to do any truly pressurized kicks there. But realistically, I think the stat that was going around, I don't know if it was kicks missed all year or just potentially field goal attempts missed, but he missed more kicks that game than he did the entire season, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that just shows how much of the yips and how much in his head he was.
Yeah, I think he missed 3 all year and then had 4 last night. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be around next year. That isn't too great for him, but watch. He'll probably come in next game and, literally have the game-winning field goal.
He'll make
against
the
game-winning
kick from 52 yards, or they'll win by an extra point, and that'll be the talking point. Like, well, he missed 4 last week, but comes up big this one. Like the game ends up, 14-13 because they kick an extra point to win.
Now, I guess this just maybe leads into the point. I mean, we're going to talk about it more as the year wears on, since now the Bucs are officially in the offseason. But was this Brady's last ride? Did he miss the chance a year ago? I guess maybe 2 years ago now to, John Elway it and get off on a high note?
Maybe, but I know you mentioned earlier that the sky's the limit for the Dolphins. Regarding whether or not Tua is healthy, that's a different story. But what do you think about Tom Brady to the Dolphins? He's got a house down there. His kids are down there with Giselle. I mean, he wanted to be a Dolphin before the Bucs, and they had an issue. So, I mean, I wonder.
There was a whole tampering thing. It's actually going to hurt the Dolphins this draft. They got a couple of picks taken from them due to it. But
does it matter if you bring in Tom Brady and you end up getting the reason you got these sanctions and, fines against you? You end up getting the guy anyways, and the team's already loaded.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm of two minds, to be honest. Obviously, the Tua thing's the Tua thing. The Tom Brady of this year, which the Bucs were really hurt, especially in some of their skill players, throughout the year. So it's hard to say that he's lost a step. I mean, he's a 45-year-old man. He's clearly not the same guy he was. But for me, I just don't know. Listen, if he can come in and get the Dolphins on a deep playoff run, I'm going to take him tomorrow, right? I'm just more thinking 2-3 years down the road. But if Tom Brady wants to come to Miami, he's still playing at a high enough level that with the dudes that Miami has, especially Hill and Waddle, Gesicki at tight end is okay. I mean, Tom Brady would probably make him worth way more than he is without him. All Miami truly needs, besides shoring up some stuff on defense, is get them a solid running back. And that's something you can get in free agency. Honestly, seems like it will these days. Running backs are not a dime a dozen, at least, steady hand. I mean, there aren't Derrick Henrys falling out of, free agency. But no, if Miami can snag him for a year, maybe two, I'd be happy to have him for a year because I think Tom's still got enough in the tank to get him to a Super Bowl. And especially with the weapons that Miami has, and you got, the great one coming into town, I would love to see the Patriot matchups with them because that's potentially our biggest divisional rival, them or the Jets. So that would be just worth its weight in gold to see him going up against Belichick 2 times throughout this season. I would take him. And I think every Dolphins fan who's not a total jackass would too.
I agree. And I don't see I don't know if I see Tua even playing football ever again. The guy's brain is like a scrambled egg in his head. And if he turns his head too fast, he's concussed. The guy can't do too much.
See, I kind of see this potentially as the Miami Dolphins' potential Drew Brees moment, how Drew Brees was with the Chargers. A little different injury when it comes to your head versus your shoulder. But maybe this was just one of those fluke seasons for Tua, and he comes back healthier than ever. Because when he was playing, I think even with the games he missed, he was top 5 in the league in passing yards and touchdowns. So he was – the big issue for the Dolphins when he was playing was their defense. Their defense couldn't stop a leak. So, that was the big issue. But, again, if you have maybe the Dolphins do this in a way, hey, we're going to still keep you around Tua. We're going to give you a full year to rest and recover. Let your head just chill out. But the big problem is what does that do to that man's confidence? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is all big ifs and speculations because Tom Brady could retire tomorrow and then unretire in a month. So we don't know anything.
He has done that before. But to cap off the wild card weekend, though, I think we got to just say I was 3 for 6 on my picks. You were 4 for 6. You actually had a pretty good weekend on your picks.
Both Giants game, baby. That was the difference maker.
The Giants did win you that. And to be honest, that was more of a toss-up game because it looked like it could go back and forth either way. I mean, realistically, a few of them were. Bills was a toss-up game too. Same with the Jags. So, but it was that Giants that was the one that put you over the top there, no doubt. But then now we got the divisional round set. We got Jags, Chiefs, Giants, Eagles, Bengals, Bills, and then Cowboys, 49ers. Off that list, who do you think is going to be the best game that following weekend or this coming weekend?
Yeah, I know we'll dive into it pretty heavily on Thursday's show, but right off the bat, the game I'm obviously most excited for is Bengals-Bills. I mean, those two teams just had the DeMar Hamlin incident in week 16 or 17. The game obviously suspended and not resumed, so canceled essentially. That's a big-time game, man. And if the Bills play like they did last week, I'm not saying the Bengals played much better, but they're not world beaters by any means the way they're playing right now.
And the one thing I do want to bring up – oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was also going to say that the Giants-Eagles game is going to be a big game as well. I mean, those teams are very familiar with each other. They've played, 3 times already this year. So they're very familiar with each other. Philly's hosting a fucking playoff game at home. That place is going to be nuts. It's a night game.
Rivals. It's always a big game, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, pretty much all of them are, except,
True.
But Jags Chiefs isn't, but they're not in the same division, are they?
No, Bengals Bills aren't either. Same with the Cowboys and 49ers. They're not in the same division either. The only one that's a true division
you're right.
is the Giants Eagles.
You're right. Yeah. 80-20. That's my 80-20, Sean.
80-20. Listen, we all, speaking of 80-20, that actually kind of leads perfectly into this because you were on your 80-20 game, but in the good side, because when we were breaking down the playoffs, Tuesday, Thursday of last week, and I had the, bracket up, it didn't say in the bracket, and it made total sense that why aren't the Chiefs or the Eagles getting the lowest seed? Well, they are getting the lowest seed.
Yes, I knew
and that's
that.
something I wanted to say. Mea culpa. I fucked that one up because it just the way the bracket was put on the NFL's website, and it didn't say anything clarifying that the Eagles or Chiefs would get the lowest seed. It just made it seem like, oh, just how like the tourney brackets are, right? Well, if this one beats that guy, that's who it's going to be. So
right, yeah.
Didn't make it. I don't know why they arranged it that way. I mean, wouldn't you put the, 7th seed sort of up there at the top just to sort of be like, hey, whatever. But I wanted to make sure that people knew we own up to our mistakes around here. And that was a surefire mistake because that made no sense when we were talking about it. But it did come back around to actually make sense once the divisional round was squared away. Because I was like sitting there like, what the hell?
Well, I knew I was right. I just didn't want to make a scene on one of our first episodes. So I'll let it slide.
Dude, feel free to make a scene. You gotta get the people going. You gotta make sure that you stand your ground, guy. You can't let me push you around when I'm clearly wrong. You could have made me look more like a fool.
Speaking of pushing people around when they're clearly wrong, the MLB's looking to get away from that altogether. They want to eliminate umpires, and they're starting it out in the AAA league. They're going to use robot umpires for the 2023 season.
I kind of
basically
like
they're just using it for an electronic strike zone, but still, it's interesting. I don't know how to feel about it, to be honest.
Well, let me ask you this: so with the electronic strike zone, do you think? Because I think what the big thing with the MLB it's been lacking, and again, I like pitchers duels. I mean, you were a pitcher, your uncle was a pitcher, so I know you probably appreciate a good pitchers match when they're literally just dealing out there and it's a 1-0 game or it stays 0-0 the entire game, and people got to figure it out. They're painting the plate. Sometimes it is a strike, sometimes it's not. That being said, do you think an electronic strike zone would wind up giving or getting more points production in the MLB? Because now pitchers would really have to be precise with where they're putting that baseball.
Yeah, I guess the way they started doing this was in the low A's. They started adding the balls and strikes ability to be challenged by the pitcher, batter, or umpire. Or I'm sorry, catcher. So they could challenge a pitch, basically, whether or not it was a ball or strike. And so what they found, though, is it was starting to be implemented as a form of strategy to adjust timing, to kind of get pivotal pitches changed from a ball to a strike. Like there was some strategy involved. So I mean, it's people were liking it because it's a step in the right direction of making sure the game's fair. Because you got some umpires in the MLB that are not very good. They blow some calls. I mean, most notably, and this isn't a ball or strike, but I can't remember the name for the life of me. But the Tigers, I think it was Verlander, had a perfect game going, and there was a ground ball flipped to first base, and it was a bang play, clearly out. Umpire called him safe, ruined the perfect game.
Now that does go to show. I think baseball is the best one to go to show that even replay can't always get it right, because there are some plays, especially like when people are digging it out to first, and whether it's a long throw from the third baseman or sometimes even shortstops when they're getting those like into the that's left field, when they're getting that like shallow left field, make a hell of a play. Yeah. Or even double plays, dude. You don't realize how hard the job is, and I agree with you. Umps do mess it up quite a bit in the MLB. It seems like more than a lot of other sports. I mean, NFL is pretty bad in its way too. But I don't know if there's a single sport that has such close calls as the MLB. Like, it truly is amazing, especially when it comes to base running. It's kind of just like, how the heck do they even get anything right more times than not?
Yeah, and as I'm reading this here, it says that the MLB general managers in winter meetings were briefed on the ongoing efforts to shape the strike zone in a way that's more conducive for action. So to your point, I think that they're looking to make it a little more offensive league. They want to see more points, more runs scored is what they're looking for. That's what gets people in the building anyways, is watching runs scored. No one wants to watch a pitcher's duel.
Well, and let's be honest, that's the reason I believe I know the no shift is happening this year, right? If I'm not mistaken. And then they also, aren't they instituting the 25-second pitch clock?
Yes, there's a few changes they're making.
So those alone will help it out. Because, I mean, obviously, for me on the shift, I'm torn. Saying pitch clock, I like because there are stats that say that, like, dude, you go to a game in the 1970s, they were basically doing it in an hour less time. So I think the pitch clock, I have no problems with that one. I think by all means have that one going because the amount of time it takes these cats, dude, it's kind of ridiculous. But the one thing I am a little bit torn on is the shift because, in my opinion, learn how to bunt. Like the easiest way to get a shift off you is to bunt the damn ball. So I don't understand that one.
Absolutely. And that's lost art in the game is bunting.
And speaking of, even though this has nothing to do with baseball, what are these new skills competitions that the NFL is coming out with for the Pro Bowls? Because I'll see those highlights of like old throwing competitions they did, and I'm like, where the hell are those these days? Like getting them the quarterbacks out there and just throwing a long ball, see who's got the biggest cannon. I love it.
They're switching it up this year, and starting on Thursday, February 2nd, they're doing a dodgeball game between the AFC and NFC. They're doing a lightning round, so they got 16 players compete in a 3-part elimination challenge. The first event, splash catch, so they toss water balloons back and forth and see how far apart they can get. They do a game called high stakes, which is catching punts from a jug machine. And the third game is Thrill of the Spill. They each aim at targets attached to a bucket hanging above a player of the and a coach from the opposing conference. So the first team to dump the bucket on the opposing coach wins. And it's all points-based, so you get points for winning these different games. This one's the most intriguing to me, I think, is the long drive. They're getting 4 players from each conference, and they're doing a long drive off the tee. They get 3 swings, and the player that drives it the furthest within the boundaries of the fairway wins 3 points. Now they're getting into I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say initial thoughts, not having read or heard that before until you explained them. And I don't know if you're going on, you like these changes. I think that's a little bit carnival-esque, you know? I mean, I get it. They're trying to get kids to watch, build the game, yada, yada, yada.
That's all it is. And they're trying to keep people from getting hurt. These players don't want to do something, playing a game that doesn't matter and get hurt.
True. I mean, they get a bonus, though, for going there. But I get what you mean. You don't want to blow your knee out, you know, and
right.
Just for like $100,000 when you're making that times 10 a game. But, yeah, no, to me, can't say I'm a huge lover of that changes. But I won't be watching either way.
Well, there's also the precision passing where 3 quarterbacks from each conference get a 1-minute accuracy competition. There's 10 targets that they got to hit. And then there's also a long toss bucket. There's a long toss bucket. 60 yards away. If you make it in, you get 10 points.
See, those I could go for. The more football related the activity is to show your skill, I'm for it.
Well, then you'll like this one. This is the best catch presented by Uber Eats. 2 players from each conference will compete in a best catch competition. The first round, the players will showcase their best reception and highlight reels shot at iconic venues around Las Vegas. That's going to be weird. I don't know what that means. But then on Sunday during the real Pro Bowl, they do the finale. They perform head-to-head in front of people, in front of celebrity judges.
Okay.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like a weird gymnastics meet type of thing that they're doing there. They're doing like a floor dance for their catches.
On Sunday, they got the Gridiron Gauntlet. It's a side-by-side relay race showcasing strength, speed, and agility. 6 players compete to see who finishes first. 4-part gauntlet. Each segment has 40 yards in length. There's a series of breakaway walls, a section of climbing over walls, under tables, tire run, blocking sled. Okay, and then they'll have a legendary coach on the fucking blocking, so that's kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
Then they got tic-tac-toe. So each team's kicker, punter, and long snapper compete in a giant tic-tac-toe competition to showcase their respective skills. So that'll be kind of cool. They'll probably have a net behind the goalposts. And then this one's probably a little different than what we're used to, but it's kind of just a sled pull. It's called Move the Chains. Each team of 5 players is responsible for pulling a wall loaded up with heavy weights 10 yards as quickly as possible using first down chains.
Interesting. I could see that one being a line of scrimmage dominated event with your defensive lineman and offensive lineman if you have to pull something. But yeah, some of those I like, some I could do without, to be honest. But it'll be some of them I might tune it into. At least I'll be watching probably the YouTube replays of them, to be completely honest. Especially of
there's also a flag football game, so there's 3 flag football games.
Well, that kind of defeats the purpose of not getting injured out there. That seems like something you could easily tweak a knee on or something if it's a slippery turf.
I'm sure they're not going to be playing seriously. It's going to be a bunch of dumb shit.
True. Well, and you said it's in Vegas, so they'll probably be playing it in their stadium, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
But maybe not. But speaking of Vegas, and what were we gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say maybe not. Then you went into speaking of Vegas. I think I know where you're going. I was gonna say because they could be doing different things, just like Cliff Kingsbury's not doing football things anymore. He's apparently off in Thailand with some.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Hitting the jackpot like Vegas style, Cliff Kingsbury with his Instagram. I don't know if his girlfriend, but slam piece, Veronica. I think it's Balick. But dude, I don't know if you've seen any of that girl's photos. I would go into do not disturb mode and go to Thailand with her to pound some puss.
Yeah, that's a nice piece he's got there. I wonder if he ever returns. I don't know. They say once you go to Thailand, you never come back or something like that.
He might start banging cock over there. You never know. He might just have a full change pace.
Some lady boys over there. Who knows?
Dude, maybe so. You never know. But otherwise, I mean, if the hangovers taught me anything, Thailand gets a little crazy. So,
Mr. Chow.
Mr. Chow. Yeah, he might be thinking it's a peanut on the rug, but nope, that's not what it is.
No, that's interesting though that he just hauled ass out to Thailand and say he doesn't know when he's coming back. It's a ballsy ball and move right there.
Needs a little refresher. I'm going to bring up this girl's Instagram though, because I think everyone needs to just see a good look of her. Because oh my god, she's hot.
I haven't got a good look at her yet, other than the picture they had in the article.
Well, that's what I'm showing is the picture in the article here. And then there's a couple more. I like that little sign. But yeah, no, she's pretty hot. Let's see if I can get on her Instagram real quick, huh? Guy? I don't have an Instagram, so hopefully it lets me.
I don't know about that.
Oh, it does, boy. Nope. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
all right.
You're locked out.
Locked out, whatever. Either way, Cliff Kingsbury is going to have a hell of a time. Probably already is having a hell of a time in Thailand right now, if I had to guess. And like you said, I don't know if he's going to be coming back. He may. I mean, he ain't coming back to an NFL job anytime soon. I don't think that's in the cards unless it's potentially a coordinator maybe somewhere.
Yeah, he might be dropping back down to the college ranks.
Speaking of college, maybe not basketball, but do we have killers in the ranks of the Alabama Crimson Tide? Did you see that Darius Miles got arrested for capital murder for an argument gone awry in the Strip in Tuscaloosa?
I believe now they've come out and said, according to ESPN, I believe that he supplied the gun. And I don't think he was the shooter, but he supplied the gun.
Still not a smart move.
I'm definitely not condoning anything. I'm just saying I don't think that he's the actual shooter for what it's worth.
Interesting. I wonder how I guess they only have one gun that sort of solves that. I don't know what they're looking at as far as cameras or whatnot. But either way, why as a college basketball player do you have a gun? Because the Strip is sort of like their version of Midtown. It's probably a little better, to be honest. But so why are you coming strapped up to the Midtown area of Tuscaloosa? It kind of makes no sense to me.
He's just doing some hood rat shit with his hood rat friends.
I just want to do some hood rat shit with my friends. And I don't know. That one kills me because, again, he wasn't a starter or anything. I believe he's only played 6 games this year for a whopping 30 minutes total. So, he's not like he's their starter. He had a better year last year than he did this year, but I just don't quite understand why would you – one, this is what I don't understand. I guess it's youth, maybe drinking, but never in my mind did it ever cross even a drunken version of me, sober version of me, high version of me, whatever, to, oh, let's start popping off shots for people just screaming, yelling, or whatever that disagreement was that they had. Like, let's get that violent all of a sudden. That never was something that crossed my mind.
No, that's it's definitely a very strange case. The fact that it occurred late on, well, I guess it's Sunday night would be, or Sunday morning, essentially be Saturday night. So
yeah, because it was at 1:45 on Sunday morning.
So
but
yeah,
there were two suspects.
I would love to know. I'd love to know what the argument was about. I mean, it's obviously not worth killing somebody, but jeez, what could have been that bad that you even thought you needed to pull a gun out?
Well, and like I mean, he might not have known this. Who knows what they knew about these people? But it was a 23-year-old woman who had like a 4-year-old kid. So now,
Right.
A kid's now motherless. Probably, well, I don't want to say he's fatherless. That's trafficking in some potential stereotypes. But he could potentially be fatherless. And so it's just like, now what? You just left that kid worse for wear because you got mad at two women at late at night and you started shooting them up. Like, it's just, even if he was an accessory to it, it's just so dumb to put yourself in that situation at all. And at 23 years old, you should be old enough to realize, like, come on, dude, can't be doing this anymore.
Nope, that's a decision that's obviously going to alter the course of his life forever. He's probably never going to play well, he'll play basketball again, but it'll be for a penitentiary, not for a university.
Yeah, he'll be doing the longest yard basketball version.
Yeah.
But speaking of a game that's not getting played, you shared this one, so go ahead and talk about it. I think it was what, Iowa, or is it Purdue?
It is Iowa men's basketball had a schedule update. I thought, oh, maybe they're going to start the game earlier. Maybe lights went out. They can't play today. No, we got a COVID-19 cancellation. Today's date is January 17th, 2023. And we got a COVID-19 cancellation. The game against Northwestern Wednesday night will not be played. That'd be tomorrow night, the 18th. They will not be playing due to COVID. They're working with the Big Ten on rescheduling options.
I mean, unless it was the entire team, even at this point too, shouldn't they just be playing? Aren't they all? Didn't all the conferences mandate vaccines for these kids anyway? So they're all vaxxed up. Why not just let them play? Like, what's the worst that can happen? A major death outbreak? Nah, don't think so, buddy. Everyone in that stadium has either had it or got the vaccine. Like, let's move on with our lives.
Yeah, apparently it's health and safety protocols within Northwestern's program is the cause of concern. So it was Northwestern's decision to cancel the game or postpone the game.
Oh, Lord. And Northwestern, they're a big, famous journalism school, so they probably would have had the school newspaper probably would have had a conniption fit if they went ahead and played with that game.
Yep, it would have all been over.
Well, I think like there's some comments going around that it should just be an automatic win for the Hawkeyes since Northwestern's one being softies about it. And why not?
Yeah, I agree.
Give them a
If
W.
you're going to cancel for that, then it should be just a forfeiture.
I totally agree. Well, I guess how do you want to proceed from here? We're closing in on 9 o'clock. I know you're tuckered out. You got beat down. Well, your team got beat down. Your body got beat down on that Monday night. You still feeling up to rolling on, or you want to keep some of the news of the day for Thursday?
Let's save it for Thursday because we're going to touch on the 4 playoff games and then be pretty much looking for things to talk about. So I think getting into some reparations out of San Francisco and maybe some drone-controlled naval boats would be nice to talk about on Thursday.
True, and then we can also give our take on some potentially beautiful pieces of modern art, science making strides in guiding lightning, and then also, do any of these movies pique your interest that are apparently the 8 must-watch movies of 2023, early 2023? Most of them I haven't even seen, just to tease that one out a little bit. But otherwise, I think we had a pretty good little show here, fella. We got a good divisional round coming our way. We had a great weekend, in my opinion, of the wild card. And realistically, I just wish I was Cliff Kingsbury right now, not even having to be online.
Yep. Speaking of that, I'm going to head out to Thailand here in just a moment. I got a flight to catch. I may not be back, so we might not even do a Thursday show. Who knows?
Is Victoria or whatever her name is giving you a shout?
I forgot her name already. I'll have to ask her again. She hates
She's
when I do
hot.
that.
She had a good booty. That's all I care about. But with that, that wraps up episode 4 of Always On. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.